Hello, hello.
All right. I think we're live. I can already see on my Twitter that this talk is being streamed, which is, I guess, a good sign. I'll just wait for Martina just to give us a heads up.
I see you on Twitter, so we're live.
Yeah, I think YouTube is live too.
We're live. Awesome. Wonderful. Shall we dig in?
I think so.
So yeah, welcome everybody for joining us for this very special episode that I guess happens every once in a while, every once in a few years. OriginTrail ecosystem transitioning into a new development phase. And today we're gonna not only look into what kind of cool stuff we're going to be achieving in the new phase called Metcalfe's phase, but also what we have achieved. And I believe so far within the Turing phase, we have achieved some really awesome things. And I think even not all of them have been revealed yet. And this day, today, we're also going to look into some stuff that have been achieved in Turing and some of the things that we have not yet communicated, and they really, really look cool. And then slowly going into the Metcalfe phase, which is also gaining certain very exciting updates. But I'm pretty much sure that all of you are curious how we aim to scale the decentralized knowledge graph. I believe right now we're looking at the scalability in the size of 100,000x. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's 100,000x, which is a insane scalability. But without further ado, perhaps I'm gonna leave it to the rest of the guys just to say hi, and then we're gonna dig into the presentation before, of course, and that before means in an hour or so, or even more, we dig into the Q&A, into the questions that you have sent us. And just wishing you all to enjoy this session. It's gonna be a fun one. We have plenty to share, and I'm gonna have fun as well as the guys are gonna have fun here with me.
Yes, sir. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everyone. I'm looking forward to the next hour and a half ish. Two. I don't know how long we're gonna be on this stream, but yeah, it'll definitely be a very exciting one. Plus, it's named after just one of the best people ever, right? So Dr. Bob Metcalfe is, yeah, there you go. Yuri is representing proudly, as you should. So yeah, how can this not be cool?
Yeah, the excitement absolutely shared here. Really looking forward to diving into the slides. So hey everybody, and let's get into it, I guess.
Yeah, also just a brief hello from my end to everyone. A lot of exciting, cool things, as Brana suggested. Let's dive into the presentation.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'll read this one, and then someone else will continue. But we all very much admire Professor Dr. Bob Metcalfe, also our advisor, and we intentionally decided that we are going to name the next development phase after Professor Metcalfe because he has achieved like a really tremendous achievement in his life. Actually, if it wasn't for him, we would not be able to relay this show today. And we hope OriginTrail will also, help reap benefits for the whole society in a similar fashion as the internet, one of main products or byproducts Professor Bob Metcalfe helped to make a reality. And today we're especially going to be touching upon the convergence of different technologies. And these technologies, one of them also decentralized knowledge graph and OriginTrail, are bringing tremendous value already to the society. But right now, in the age of AI, there is also one huge problem that we believe OriginTrail can help tackle and also exploit those technologies. which are coming to be, namely AI technologies. And Bob's really famous quote, at least in our circles, he would go to say that we live in a time of abundant connectivity and alas, abundant misinformation. The knowledge graph is an evolving tool for finding the truth in knowledge. In particular, we see knowledge graphs improving the fidelity of artificial intelligence. And this, fidelity of artificial intelligence is overarchingly going to be a topic today as we dig deeper into what OriginTrail is doing to drive verifiable web of AI and all the cool technologies and all the cool achievements that we're going to present today that are going to help make this a possibility. Branimir or Tomasz or any of the guys shall we move forward, and then we can just flesh out the first and the most important achievements within the V6, within the Turing phase.
You're giving it away.
Yeah.
Since you did already, I mean, definitely, Turing phase and V6 are like the two things that you'd see at the same bookshelf or like a shopping shelf somewhere. They're very tightly connected, and it definitely was a very big milestone that was achieved within the Turing phase when we saw the V6 go live. I mean, it's we always say that it almost doesn't feel fair that we only had a V5 to V6 jump with all the new things that have happened in the network when this came to be. I mean, it was just a powerhouse of an update when it comes to the network. Not only scalability, which was like a huge jump compared to the V5, but also just to the core components that are available to us to work with. And you have things that we see here as well, which is next to the V6. It's called knowledge assets, which have been introduced with V6. And they aren't just any knowledge asset, they are AI-ready knowledge assets, which is something that was hugely important as we saw over the course of the last year, because those were that characteristics or that capability was just leveraged so much, and it gave so much more understanding even or visibility to the decentralized knowledge graph because of the fact that it was AI ready and that AI tools were able to tap into the DKG and the knowledge assets. Yeah, I'll kick it over then to Brana, just if you want to do a highlight of the key things that not make knowledge assets cool, and then take it from there.
Absolutely. So knowledge assets are really a key innovation in the web in general. And when you think about them from a perspective, we can like kind of see them from different perspectives. Like, for example, if you look at them from a perspective of, let's say, the classical knowledge graph semantic web world, you can call them basically containers for knowledge. But they're actually much more than containers of just the standardized knowledge, as in sense of knowledge graphs. They're ownable pieces of knowledge, ownable containers of knowledge, essentially. And as you can see on the slides, they have these several key value propositions: ownership, discoverability, and verifiability. So if you look at from an angle, let's say, of a blockchain, you could also call them knowledge NFTs, because all of them essentially have an NFT as built into the knowledge asset. So they enable ownership and they enable all of the NFT use cases that normally you would see, and then much more actually. So for example, exposing them to an NFT marketplace immediately enables you to market your knowledge assets. But not just that, you're able to implement all kinds of different features on top of this ownership primitive. And this is, by the way, standardized. So it's not like some super unusual NFT. It's a custom. It's a standard ERC-721 NFT. On top of ownership, these are then discoverable. So whoever publishes a knowledge asset into the DKG enables anybody to find it, and not just in any random way, but actually multiple different ways. For example, again, going back to this knowledge graph perspective, you can do classic knowledge graph queries, Or if you were, let's say, looking from kind of a more AI perspective, this neural AI perspective, you could discover it through some sort of interface such as ChatGPT or other similar interfaces which can basically retrieve such knowledge assets. And that's why they're called AI ready, but also because they're under the hood actually combine this approach of this symbolic AI coming from knowledge graphs and this neural approach that comes from this new branch of AI. Finally, they're verifiable, which means that each action that has happened for a specific knowledge asset, and those could be to create it, to update it, to transfer it, for example, as you transfer another NFT, they're all verifiable on chain. So you can see exactly who did it because obviously an associated key or public key, rather wallet key is visible with it. But also you see exactly basically the whole, we like to say origin of this knowledge asset and trail of its updates and whatever happened to it on chain. So it combines the blockchain records with the knowledge graph records together and fuses into this great, basically new primitive called knowledge assets. They also have a bunch of interesting properties. The key one of them being that they introduce a new type of Web3 URL called UAL, or Uniform Asset Locator, and basically extends the URL structure to create a completely trustable, dereferenceable identifier. So many different things can be built on top of it. Just one example, again, if you're looking from kind of a blockchain user, Web3 user perspective, you can say that these knowledge NFTs have not just their verifiable identifiers, but they have immediately rich metadata. So it's not just limited to some basic metadata. You can query anything that you can query from a knowledge graph. On top of that, it's evolvable metadata. So basically, it's very suitable for any type of use cases where you need evolvable NFTs. The other hand, if you're tracking something in the real world, like we've been doing for many years with real world assets, basically that's perfectly fitting to connect information from different places, connecting different knowledge assets because they're connectable via this URL, and in that case, then you can basically assemble the whole story about what's going on with some real world asset. And then, of course, know exactly who published which information to graph. So it's a really, really powerful new primitive that was introduced with OriginTrail v6. And so far, we've seen it integrated with tons of AI systems. You might have, if you've been following, you might have seen recently a bunch of solutions that have been demonstrated and are being built, which are being built in productive environments, such as chat analysts, for example, solutions such as the chat with your chicken type of application that you might have seen a video of that was recently shown. And these are just some basic examples, but it can actually go way more powerful. So this all comes from the power of knowledge assets. And I cannot be more excited to have had this update happen. Like Tomasz said, it wasn't like an incremental version update. It was a huge, humongous update because it introduced a lot of new power and all of that, by the way, standardized. So makes it go really a long way. And having that said, we've seen quite a bit of usage within the Turing phase, and the DKG has grown actually tremendously. Here's a chart from OT Hub, the community built website around OriginTrail, all things OriginTrail. And it shows the growth over the course of the past period, where actually we've managed to cross the originally set target for the Turing phase at 1 million knowledge assets on the DKG v6 to actually almost double. We're currently around 1.9 million and growing, obviously. And with this actual tremendous growth, because previously on version 5, we had, as Giga already mentioned at the beginning, much less throughput scalability on the DKG. V6 brought a ton of improvement there. It brought so much scalability on the DKG layer that we're actually starting to hit limits of blockchain layers. Some of you who are following the project closely might have noticed that already. Even with modern blockchains, such as substrate-based Polkadot pair chains, we're pushing limits with the number of transactions that can happen during the day. So that is actually a challenge, though not an insurmountable challenge, especially for the OriginTrail DKG, which is, again, to repeat, a multi-chain decentralized knowledge graph. So it has room to grow on many chains, and especially the chains that provide room for that, but also doesn't limit the abilities to grow, for in this case, for example, OriginTrail parachain as well in terms of scalability, though it's showing signs of struggle, and we like to joke that we're in the Turing phase. Not only did we achieve growth, we started breaking blockchains. All things considered, it's nothing I mean of a huge problem, but it's something we see as a very good sign of growth and the adoption of the DQG in the Turing phase. So with that said, it wasn't just that we've seen growth in the number of knowledge assets on the DKG. We've also seen growth in global partnerships, and perhaps best to add here is the man himself who was most involved with the sustainable medicine partnership, was particularly Yuri. So I forward the mic to you, sir.
Yes, thanks, Brana. That's it's a very exciting new introduction with as you guys already mentioned, with knowledge assets, because they really enable a whole scale of new and enhanced use cases that, of course, then resulted in additional partnerships and a lot of exciting and different use cases that we've kind of also showcased throughout the last half a year. And it's really nice to see now how all of these technologies are kind of converging. Also, obviously, with the knowledge assets being able to feed AI systems and enable even better, more engaging, simpler also UI UX interfaces that allow for these for anyone to use decentralized knowledge graph and knowledge assets and have verifiable answers, which is something that is still really it's really novel. It's something that is really cool, and seeing all of this connected data that is now growing, the more connected assets we have, the more obviously we can also get out of this convergence of technologies. It will be very interesting to see and very exciting to move now from this Turing phase that has shown huge growth already, a lot of new partnership, and then moving into the next step where this can also grow exponentially from all sides, from the technology side, from the adoption side. So I'm really looking forward to that, and we'll continue also with building new exciting things, showing them all of these things that we have shown and built are based on actual kind of use cases that our enterprise customers and partners came to us and said, this is something that is an issue, that there is a problem. So really cool, really exciting, really excited to see this list that is just an extract of a list here on the page grow, and really push the boundaries, continue pushing the boundaries really on all sides of the equation.
Yuri, will you go deeper into the solutions part, the new cool solutions that are being powered by the decentralized AI?
That's cool. Yeah, we did. We had a couple of really nice, and here you can see them on the slide. We had in the past even a couple of months, really so many new solutions that we demonstrated. Starting at the top left, we showcased how GS1 digital link, and actually a whole host of other digital link GS1 standards can actually be combined with knowledge assets and artificial intelligence to enable consumers to a whole new kind of unprecedented way of interacting with the product, right? Being able to scan a product, either be it a piece of meat or a garment that you bought, or a piece of an electronic equipment, and very simply just ask and chat about not only about where the product comes from, but pretty much anything around it, right? So what are in the case of meat, what are the recipes that I can do? What are the complementary products I can engage with? all of these types of things that really drive engagement from a user perspective to in a way that was not really previously possible, while keeping, of course, all of the things, all of the content verifiable because of that trusted infrastructure. And that was a really cool example how these standards can be combined and used. And the same thing we did for international trade, really also combining even more standards, not only GS1, also standards around trade documentation that really enabled kind of organizations that participate in global trade to do various different things, from understanding where shipments came from, what were their risk profiles, who interacted with them, combining that with IoT reading so that you get real-time kind of insights as to what's going on and what happened in the past, potentially also what's coming up in the future. Checking against the night party lists, connecting all of this data with the night party list to understand whether people in the supply chain that you're doing business with are, should you be doing business with them, or is there, a chance that you're being incompliant and can get in trouble because of that? So connecting all of these things together in very simple interfaces, but at the same time allowing users to really drill down deep, down to the very, very fabric of where that information and source came from, is really kind of the essence of this new chat DKG like interfaces that we're looking at here on the screen. And maybe just another really cool one that we of course have from the community side, from Trackverse, right, with the Trackverse team kind of really driving that metaverse and cross-chain storytelling angle as well, using OriginTrail knowledge assets to expand a story essentially that crosses not only chains but galaxies, universes, and enables users to really do things in a very interactive way, including AI components, not only to read knowledge assets but also to create knowledge assets, which is really cool. So there's a lot of, you can really see the versatility and the flexibility and the usability of OriginTrail knowledge assets and technology, that it spans from really industrial types of situations in different industries to really, metaverse, gaming, all sorts of things. And I think the only thing I missed here was I missed two more exciting things that we had. I have the Zoom cover over the last two on the right, so I have limited visibility, but one of them we just recently released, also of course a very exciting piece, kind of moving into the new industry, into finance, with chatanalyst.ai, where we're really enabling analysts, financial analysts, and whoever is doing research on companies to actually access a whole host of information, and simply just ask about, how is Tesla, for example, if we're talking about in this particular case, how is it performing in the past quarters, what's upcoming, what were the issues. So really having that trusted knowledge graph combined from all sorts of different sources, from the SEC filings, from quarterly reports, from Twitter sentiment, where you can really ask about how is this company currently perceived on social media, and having that perception. So taking a step beyond, let's say, the traditional financial analysis that you would be seeing in the past years, to really include also things that provably impact stock price, right? What's going on socials, what's going on in the media. So and the last one to touch on is a solution that we had with related to battery, electric vehicle batteries, so EV batteries, where we really associated knowledge assets essentially with the product passports that the EV batteries could have, and really taking that representation of a knowledge passport as a knowledge asset and connecting it, not only having that thing that describes the battery and describes some forms of testing that was done on it and all these connected things, but actually also plugging it into a broader supply chain context and understanding where specific battery passports, where they came from, what materials were used, is potentially child labor used, and is there conflict material. So all of these types of things that are, they start with a product passport, which is being driven by the European Union, for not only electric vehicle products. Of course, this is a much broader topic that we're happy to also extend in the future. But electric vehicle batteries are one thing that are very there's a lot of contention around, are the materials sourced properly? What's the impact on the environment, on the workforce, and all these related items? So really connecting this passport into actual supply chain data, enabling not only users of the batteries, but also manufacturers to understand what's going on in their supply chains. It really kind of brings this, the kind of shows the power of what the OriginTrail can do. And essentially, we're only getting started also in that sense. So really looking forward to having more and more of these things going forward.
And you just dwell into just a few of them, and there are like very formidable partnerships behind all of these applications. And I sometimes feel that the more partnerships, the more customers, the more users we got in the OriginTrail ecosystem, the harder it gets to encapsulate everything in a very short time and explain how many cool things we've achieved together with the community. If we move on to the next slide, I think it's a very quick snapshot as to what the global impact of OriginTrail is. Together with the supplier compliance audit network in the States, comprising of the biggest retailers, the biggest importers in the United States, working also with the customs and the borders protection. Over 40% of the total imports to the United States are protected by the OriginTrail. In Switzerland, in collaboration with the Swiss Federal Railways, we're securing transportation lines of the rail. So really huge thing. Hundreds of thousands of professionals their certificates are protected by the OriginTrail, and these professionals are essentially auditing global supply chains. So huge impact there as well, and also dozens of thousands of patients treated in a secure manner thanks to the medicines that were traced by OriginTrail. 250 organizations part of our ecosystem, over a dozen consortia right now, also supported by the European Union and other governments across the globe. And last but not least, but still, just the beginning, 2 million knowledge assets recorded on the new network. And as I said, right now we're looking into the roadmap that is going to help us scale this to 100,000 times more. So that's a huge thing. And I think going back again to all the solutions that Yuri presented, it's really refreshing to see some of the, let's say, blockchain ecosystems coming up with, let's say, solutions for real estate, solutions for supply chains. And it's really refreshing that we will perhaps at some point be able to learn from others, because so far we have been blazing the trail for so many sectors out there. But that said, I think OriginTrail, and that confirms that we have been approached by several also crypto partners. It is kind of being positioned at the cusp of solving real world issues, and the multi-chain nature of OriginTrail allows us to bring the fundamental technologies of OriginTrail onto other chains, into other ecosystems. And we already have a mechanism in place that is now allowing, already within the Turing phase, to transition DKG onto the other chains, and in that way also tremendously impacting the scalability potential of OriginTrail. So that's from the OriginTrail perspective, of course, very important. And from other blockchain ecosystems perspective, it's giving them some formidable ways to essentially start tackling real world problems. Because so far, over the past 5 years, 6 years in the crypto, we have felt somewhat lonely in tackling the real world issues. But now, with the help of also the tooling that we have developed, it is also going to be other ecosystems that are going to have a chance to actually tackle real world problems, not just tweet about it. Yeah, so multi-chain, I think it is another aspect of OriginTrail that later on, actually now as we enter into the Metcalfe phase, it's going to very much impact the way OriginTrail can grow. And there are several ways through which we can establish network effects in the OriginTrail ecosystem and outside. And there are some very cool examples to show if we go on to the next slide. And we're absolutely lucky and privileged to have some of the best builders around us, from Google, Microsoft, startups that have joined the Chat DKG program. And we're really happy to report that now, following just a few months of this program, we have not only gained insight into how powerful the verifiable web AI based on OriginTrail can be, but we actually already have solutions in the production phase, which are not only helping our users, so the partnerships within the OriginTrail ecosystem, but also they are significantly enabling companies in fight against misinformation, and also enabling them to tap into immense potential of the verifiable web and the knowledge base that is being generated in there. So if we move further onto the next slide, and perhaps Yuri, you can also explain how Microsoft tools and Microsoft Copilot is now being enabled by the OriginTrail. But just before going into it, I just feel very privileged that we already have like concrete examples out there as to how OriginTrail is now being positioned as an enabler rather than competitor against all of those big guys who have been building like very, very powerful stuff in the AI space. And Yuri, also, or Branimir, can also shed more lights on this Microsoft example, and then we can move on to other big boy examples.
You want to take this one, Brana? I have the next one.
Sure, why not? So what you're looking at is just one of the builders applications from the ChatDKG program. ChatDKG being the framework where essentially, as an open community, we're building together tools for integrating OriginTrail DKG with all kinds of AI applications and platforms. It focuses on several different aspects. If you're interested in the program, check out the chatdkg.ai website. What you're seeing here is basically the Copilot integration. So this specific initial integration has been fed with a number of scientific paper-based knowledge assets, meaning that interfacing with those knowledge assets is now possible through things such as ChatGPT, or like Giga said, any other Microsoft product where Copilot is present or will be present in the future. And that proves a really, really good point, not only in the sense of the technology being very easy to integrate, in the sense of all of the openness and as well as the standards being applied, but actually it provides additional capability because of the specifics of the knowledge graph. So outside of just applying some classic file uploads, or having maybe PDFs or some sort of data that has limited structure or no structure, with the knowledge graph there's so much you can do, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in the future. But with this case, you can see, for example, one of the screenshots where you can ask the DKG for example, for the top 10 fields, and because it has all of this information labeled in the DKG, it actually produces very quick results. Some of the, for example, benefits here are compared to just asking an LLM is an LLM, for example, like ChatGPT, LLM-based chatbot has a certain cutoff date of knowledge. And just 2 days ago, we heard that they're extending this for the new model, GPT-4 Turbo. It's up until, I believe, April this year. Previous one was September 2021. And that the reason being the way they learn, because you have to train them. And then with the DKG, though, the DKG is constantly updated. So if you do a retrieval on it, you basically allow such tools to know about the world in future dates. But not just that, actually, there's a really good talk by one of the key people in Wikipedia about how it actually makes cheaper to run queries on knowledge graph with an LLM rather than just an LLM. Having that said, the Copilot tool is really present all across the Microsoft ecosystem. So that means really a large number of users, and that is a big point of these similar integrations, is to expose the DKG and enable many different people who do their daily jobs in Microsoft environments through Microsoft Teams or whatever type of Copilot enabled application, Microsoft Word, Excel, all of those basically billion users of Microsoft across the globe now being able to integrate through such a plugin. So I believe there's over 1 billion users of Microsoft tools around the world. Having that said, providing this trusted foundation essentially and making it accessible to them easily without having to go through a lot of hurdles. So this is just one of these examples. I suggest we move on to the next.
Yes. So we have always are kind of looking into also expanding the way, right? So Vladimir was showing how one example, or talking about how one way to interact with the DKG through potentially through either a plugin for the ChatGPT or directly in Copilot for Word, reaching a huge amount of users. We're always trying to also find different ways, obviously, also to extend that engagement. One of them is the Chat DKG engagement through Twitter, which I'll show you a quick, let's say, closed beta preview as to how that will look like. That will be released sometime in the next weeks. That really allows anyone to chat and ask about OriginTrail ecosystem. So essentially, talk about the OriginTrail world, get familiar with it, understand better what the key concepts are, how to integrate them with the different AI tools. So anything you would want to learn about the AI tools. So let me just quickly stop sharing the screen, and you guys can still see the Twitter window now, right? Yeah. Okay. So
yes.
Let's say, cool. Let's say I want to ask our friend Chat DKD, what is a knowledge asset? So I can simply post the question and wait a couple of seconds for the Chat DKG bot to reply. But essentially, what's happening is we asked it what a knowledge asset was. The Chat DKG, essentially the interface that we were also showcasing in the DKG conference around the OriginTrail world, is essentially querying the base of knowledge with the question that we asked. It's going through all of these knowledge assets, and it's going to return essentially the answer on what is a knowledge asset. And let me just quickly refresh. Sometimes it takes a couple of seconds to get back. My internet is okay. So let me just go back to my profile and see the last post. Since it's changed the timeline, there we go. We have an answer here. There we go. So we have Chat DKG replying, a knowledge asset is a verifiable container of structured data on the OriginTrail DKG, providing connected knowledge and data provenance verification for AI systems. So a shortened version of the answer can then go into, of course, into the interface when it's live and actually see and explore the ecosystem there. But this is really like a cool way, for anyone on social media, on Twitter, to just simply write /ask at ChatDKG and see what's going on, right? And it's really bringing that usability angle even closer and closer, ever closer to the people. So it's becoming, extremely easy to use the decentralized knowledge graph. So I'll stop here if somebody else has anything to add at this point.
Yeah, this is not only strong because right now in the advent of AI, you can interact with this brand, which is X, by going into the DKG and showing the result here. verifiable result. So that's not some bullshit generated result, but a verifiable result with verifiable sources. So tomorrow you can go into the SEC filings and really find out, if some, if an financial information is actually verifiable, or for example, we've seen it's a huge problem with the fake media now and the financial fake media as well. We've all remembered the Bitcoin pump, which we were all happy about. But the problem, with some of the pumps or even some of the dumps is that, they're based on unverified information. So information verifiability, being able to tap into through Twitter is a big thing. But even bigger thing is that you can use Twitter data to essentially verifiably check what's the sentiment on the stock, what's the sentiment on just about anything. So it's a very powerful tool, and I think Elon Musk is going to is going to have to look into this sooner rather than later. But if not, we're just going to integrate with the XAI, and then all those billions of users from previously Microsoft, and then from all other tools, including XAI, are going to be able to tap into the verifiable web in addition to the generative AI all those big companies are building.
Yeah, and it's really exciting, right? Where this can go, and then how easy it becomes, and really plugging into all of these different let's say largest AI projects to really provide them and help them have verifiable data. I think it's a huge potential. This is just kind of like a sneak peek into how we can bring this closer to the people, closer to the users, and we'll see probably in the next week this will also become open so that everybody can play around and see how it runs. But going back to and you for now probably won't be able to, I don't know if you're able to see this post, the reply, because it's locked. But yeah, just with some extra patience, it will be out in just a little bit. So returning to the presentation, just put the slideshow back on. I think we skipped one. I think we skipped one example on Google Vertex. Vrana, you want to go through this one?
Yeah, just a quick one. So this is another way to see DKG, basically the knowledge assets being used through the GCP or Google Cloud platform, specifically the Vertex AI platform. You might have, if you've participated or watched the DKG conference about a month ago, you could have seen this go live. So essentially, builders who are building with the Google tools, and there's a huge Google community, just as there's a big Microsoft community, can basically utilize DKG from in this case, specifically Google's new Vertex AI platform. And if you're interested in how to do that, there's also a showcase from one of the previous ChatDKG Open Office Hours video webinars, basically. So I wouldn't take too much time here. It's just a great showcase, so you can basically search with Google through the DKG. And sorry, you want to go?
Yeah, no, I mean, I just wanted to kind of recap that you've seen how much closer the DKG is coming to the user. It's something we haven't seen before, ever, right? So whether you're chatting through ChatGPT or using Copilot in literally any of the Microsoft tools, you'll be able to tap into the DKG knowledge. If we have like a Grok now coming up as Access AI LLM tool, again, the need for, and I'm still waiting for that reply from Elon on where the documentation is on how to create a good plugin. But no, in all seriousness, though, it's like they will as well benefit from having trusted inputs, just like Google AI or Google Vertex, the one that we've seen before, is seeing already today on how how much closer to someone who is a builder within Google's platform the DKG and OriginTrail is, because it's so much. It integrates with much more power thanks to some of the developments done within the ChatDKG framework, and that really is the positioning of OriginTrail. It is building that trusted knowledge foundation, if you will, that trusted knowledge base that plugs into all these great developments that we're seeing in the space of AI, with very, very strong builders that are just opening up options. Right, it's every week there's more capabilities that the DKG can be used with. Even I think it was last week, or no, it was this one, right? That OpenAI had their Open Up Days where they announced the GPTs. So again, if you're creating some sort of an AI tool that has a particular focus or a domain in which is going to be operating, having a knowledge base, an updatable, trusted knowledge base that can be syndicated from multiple data sources, just a beast that can tremendously increase the value of all these different tools. And that's really where what is the verifiable web can become reality. Without it, it's, again, we're stuck in that generation kind of front with some limited insights into knowledge that should be vast, that should be free, that should be decentralized and open. And that's what the DKG is bringing to the table, as we've seen in the examples above, now getting closer to not millions, but literally billions of users that are already tapped into these types of products. Drum roll, someone. Who's going to do the enter? I don't know. A lot of unmuting and muting going. Alrighty, we're entering the Metcalfe phase on the back of this great positioning. I think it's we've crossed the Turing. We've seen what type of developments we've done. In case you haven't, you can rewatch this. There's also the DKG con that you can deep dive into more of the stuff. But the point is that with the DKG really kind of making that move towards the being more omnipresent across this multiple biggest ecosystem, we are also entering the Metcalfe phase, the phase where we will see network effects get unleashed, the phase where, like Giga said before, we will be pursuing that 100,000x the increase in all different kind of metrics, if you will, whether that's metrics in terms of the growth of the network, whether that's metrics in terms of the impact that the technology is bringing to the table, or the connectivity that it fosters. So across the board, a very exciting phase. Yeah, and I don't. If before we kind of take it to the next slide, if someone else has another thought on the intro, I'll pass it on.
You may just continue. I think you are lubricating the Metcalfe phase really nicely. Please go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's the one thing that's good about Dr. Bob Metcalfe is to listen to him. So we've seen, we've kind of borrowed a quote he's done on the importance of fighting the challenge of misinformation at the beginning. And here is another very powerful kind of paragraph that he said, and it speaks about a particular notion of convergence. So what he said was that the decentralized knowledge graphs and blockchains and artificial intelligence are at the point where they are converging, and this convergence is it's not just a random one, but it's a very important convergence, because it's going to help us with one of the biggest problems we have nowadays, which is the truth. And all of these previous giants that we've seen above are going to fall on the same problem, and that's why this convergence that we have identified in this paragraph, or we've highlighted in this paragraph by Dr. Bob Metcalfe, is absolutely necessary, because only by converging this technologies, but more importantly, converging the value propositions of these technologies, so the knowledge graphs, the blockchain, and artificial intelligence, are we able to really create that scalability potential that we are all looking for on one hand, but as well the impact, the positive impact in the world, because it's this is a new subset of economy that can erupt on this field, or will erupt on this field. No ifs and buts, or maybes.
Yeah, maybe just as an extension to that, especially in the world of AI, you might hear a lot about the topics of singularity and technologies being pushed into the direction of evolving together. We really see that happening, I think, day by day, up to the point that even some people, some giants like Professor Bob Metcalfe, for example, Jeffrey Hinton, left Google because of this fear of not being able to tame the beast and actually have truth as something that we can determine. So even people who are like the biggest people behind AI have shifted their careers because of this big problem. And the answer really here is that we embrace this convergence and make it so that it's very usable, as we've seen with many different tools, but it enables everybody really to determine and verify and discover information, and then be able to determine what is the truth. And this is what is really, really special about the Metcalfe phase. And as we're going to get into some really, really incredible improvements. And I think we can just move on to the next slide and show some of them. So we mentioned this number 100,000x a couple of times over this call, but what do we really mean? So having that said, we've going into the Metcalfe phase, as we talked about, we're going in with OriginTrail at version 6, this incredibly new, this great new version that introduced knowledge assets. And we're transitioning towards a new announced version called version 8, which is basically going to happen in the first part of the Metcalfe phase. There's essentially going to be two parts of the Metcalfe phase. First part being called Genesis, and the second part being called Convergence, as we already introduced it. So in the Genesis phase, really the DKG, version 6 DKG, what we see is an AI-ready knowledge graph with basically knowledge assets being AI-ready. They employ, on the decentralized network, they employ this symbolic AI decentralized engine. So the knowledge graph branch of AI. We estimate that it will scale up to 1 billion knowledge assets on the DKG in version 6. And having that said, in order to scale and grow, there's a couple of different incentives there. For example, infrastructure incentives, which you might have seen mentioned in a couple of recently released community RFCs, where we outline these in fine detail. But also a new element, this Genesis knowledge mining, and this notion of knowledge mining, which we'll dive deeper into today, which is something that starts with the Genesis period of the Metcalfe phase, essentially creating the ability to, through generation of new knowledge, we mine additional new knowledge. The core element, as we said, of version 6 OriginTrail then are graph-based knowledge assets, and essentially the creation of these knowledge assets, which then follows this mining, which we'll introduce, which precedes the mining, is basically that you populate the knowledge graph via decentralized publishing. If anybody's ever tried to use the DKG, you know that when you create a knowledge asset, essentially you publish this graph contents of this knowledge asset to the DKG, to the network, and you mint an NFT on the blockchain. So this is version 6.
But if you can stop for like a second, just to take a breather, because I'm sure people hearing for the first time about, especially the knowledge mining, it's something new for them. So I think we might want to pry into it, and why knowledge mining we believe it's the next big thing. And anybody can be a knowledge miner, essentially. We all have interest into like specific field of knowledge where we would want to build ourselves, let's say, a preferential position in which we, similar to the Bitcoin miners back in the days, were able to like build themselves a very formidable position in essentially mining Bitcoin. But in this case, we consider knowledge to be the next great knowledge asset class. So the asset class that we are introducing here is actually mineable from this phase on. That also means, of course, when you are mining the knowledge assets, you are able to essentially win rewards if you do a great job. And this genesis phase essentially is going to be, let's say, a low-hanging fruit phase for everybody who has interest in a specific field to really join the program, to really join the genesis knowledge mining as soon as possible, because this will also pay out higher dividends later on in the future when more knowledge is created and more knowledge assets connected to the knowledge assets you generated. So I think it's a mind-blowing experiment that no one so far has yet started, and we're really happy to be introducing the Genesis knowledge mining, which is just preceding something very exciting that Branimir is going to introduce now, which I mean, it's literally blowing off my mind right now, but I'm sure it's going to blow off everybody's mind when the next phase actually kicks off, following the Genesis knowledge mining phase, which is already exciting enough.
Yeah, basically, something like this has never been done before. No, the concept of getting rewards for creating new knowledge is something that is very, very new. And as Giga said, it's not only exciting because it's new, but because in the beginning it's going to actually provide a kind of a low-hanging fruit opportunity to actually get into the story early and reap a lot of benefits from that. And we'll dive more into it and how that works on today's presentation. But before we do, outside of the Genesis period, we're also going to follow with the convergence period, which is going to be dominated, at least in the beginning, by this new version of OriginTrail V8, which is not just going to be AI ready, which is already, as you've seen, very powerful in the previous examples. It's going to be AI native. So we're going to have a combination of a neural and symbolic AI decentralized engine on the DKG, which brings it incredible additional power. We will increase the scale, as you have seen here, up to 100 billion knowledge assets is what we expect to see. And with that said, with this growth, the growth will be fueled by both infrastructure incentives that are there already, but the knowledge mining and knowledge signaling capabilities. And these are very, very exciting new, basically never before seen features in any system. Knowledge mining particularly, where we generate essentially new value by sharing new knowledge and therefore incentivizing that. The core elements of OriginTrail V8 will then be a synergy, basically, of graph and vector-based knowledge assets in one. So this will be a native implementation on the OriginTrail DKG. And one of the most important and one of the most exciting updates here is, to me, is this self-growing capability of the DKG. Specifically, outside of just publishing information to the DKG, which is the traditional way how you expose information to any type of system, such as, I mean, you're using Twitter, you need to publish some tweet for other people to see, right? The idea here is that the DKG becomes self-growing in the convergence phase, actually leveraging these network effects from the convergence. And one of the key elements in this is this inferencing feature, in the ability of the DKG to, using connected knowledge, generate new knowledge. And this might sound a little bit sci-fi at the moment, but it's actually already coming into light, and we'll be explaining much more about it in the coming period. So the main difference here being that this growth literally leverages connected knowledge from different places and then applies knowledge graph reasoning, LLM inferencing, different type of capabilities that literally take existing knowledge and create more. So it's 1 + 1 = 3 type of system. And where that brings us, I'm super excited to see, because I expect this going really, really exponential. And the best part about it is that everybody gets to participate. So what Giga mentioned in this Genesis knowledge mining phase, you can already start participating in the initial versions of the knowledge mining. And furthermore, this particular corpus of knowledge then gets used for the self-growing convergent decentralized knowledge graph, which also is aimed to incentivize basically useful knowledge that was created before. And this is one of the key cool concepts that no other basically system has other than graph systems, is that you're through referencing previous knowledge. Think of, for example, scientific papers. Each scientific paper usually references other scientific papers' knowledge. For example, the Bitcoin white paper is so widely known. Jack Dorsey called it the poetry of computer science, referenced all over the internet. Well, these references is what Google uses, for example, to boost websites and search results. These references are used all across the computer science world for basically determining knowledge. Well, essentially, what we introduce with the self-growing inferencing and the knowledge mining and knowledge signaling features is the ability to actually benefit from these references. So if you create very useful knowledge assets, also in the Genesis mining phase, you can actually reap benefits from all of the future knowledge assets that reference to your knowledge assets. Of course, they won't do that if you create some random rubbish knowledge, or something that is not useful to anybody. So if you create something useful, like for example the Bitcoin white paper was useful, you can expect a ton of references in the future, and therefore benefits from all of these new features. And I can talk about it for hours. I absolutely love with this concept, but because we're already an hour in, I suggest we jump into the depths and explain a bit more about Genesis.
But still, let's take another breather. I was thinking to bring this. I was actually thinking about bringing the sync inside this room, just to to sink in the thoughts we're having about the knowledge mining and the Genesis knowledge mining. So just like to use like very simple words, and although they might not very precisely define what exactly is going on here, but I'm gonna take a stab at it. Anybody listening to this show right now, you guys can come. You can build yourself a God mode in the next generation of the knowledge economy. We were approached by several people in the past weeks whilst traveling, and some people had really, really incredible ideas. Like someone wanted to build a library of religious texts on top of the DKG. Now, what happens then? So, there was an idea that you could actually chat with God using the DKG, essentially by inscribing all the information from religious texts. But I know, although it might seem crazy, but like people get very interesting ideas as to how to build themselves a God mode in the decentralized knowledge graph, and then allow others to talk to the God using OriginTrail. So although this might sound ridiculous, but like there are many people out there that are already considering to build themselves a God mode in the Genesis knowledge phase, and then later on, as Branimir mentioned, all the subsequent knowledge assets, less fundamental but still very important, connected to the Genesis knowledge assets, are going to be catalysts for essentially incentivization for all of those who have participated early on. Okay. Hoping that makes it clear, but yeah, I think we're gonna go into more details as we progress through this phase.
Exactly. A cool example. I forgot about that. That was really cool. Nice. All right. It's been Giga and me talking for a while. Anybody want to continue from here?
Yeah. Another drum roll, I guess. It's we're looking at the the genesis phase of Metcalfe. It's the phase of the network effects. There's some aggressive growth expectations, aspirations, desires, because of the visibility of the value that this network can achieve. And we've mentioned this very important topic of knowledge mining, which basically it's making knowledge free, or it's not locking it up in particular monopolies. It allows everyone to get involved, to get included. It's neutral, it's inclusive, and it's usable. And there are components that exist within the OriginTrail ecosystem today that are enabling that. Of course, the decentralized knowledge graph, it's such a beast with what already has and what's being introduced. And there are certain things in the Metcalfe phase that we'll see evolve, that we'll see get another layer, not even just like a order of magnitude jump, but the huge leap. It's almost like a switch that's going to get turned on in terms of the value that these components will be bringing to the table, and especially pertaining to the knowledge mining, which really leads to this huge incentivized way of creating high quality, valuable knowledge on the TKG. Well, without further ado, I think we can click to the slide that introduces the NeuroWeb. It's basically a new era that we are seeing within not only OriginTrail, but internet as a whole. Is the NeuroWeb that creates, or it's fostering that convergence of these important technologies that we're saying. So it's the blockchain layer, it's knowledge graphs, and it's the artificial intelligence reaching a common point. And what we'll be seeing, what we're proposing really to see over the course of Metcalfe's Genesis phase, is the introduction of the NeuroWeb. It's the transition from the evolving element of OriginTrail's parachain towards a NeuroWeb. It's taking what exists today as OriginTrail parachain on Polkadot and really going much more heavily into leveraging the full capacity that it can offer to the OriginTrail ecosystem. So all the kind of the explanations around having a tailored blockchain layer now get fully blown up in terms of the value that is going to appear. Because now with this evolving element of from OriginTrail parachain towards the NeuroWeb, we are going to see basically the birth of a knowledge currency. It's the birth of bringing freedom to knowledge. It's the birth of having an asset that allows knowledge signaling, but it makes the playing ground even. So it allows everyone to get involved and everyone to signal what they believe is the most important knowledge to get mined, to get worked on, to get on it. Maybe it doesn't exist today. Maybe it exists, but it's locked into several different silos and it can't break through. Or maybe it's something that needs to be inferred and connected together for it to make the full sense. So we can use this knowledge currency, neuro, and make it go to work and make us go to work and make you go to work by signaling which knowledge really makes sense and allowing knowledge mining to happen. There's going to be a lot to unpack into how really the system of knowledge mining is going to work. But the main proposition is pretty simple. It's what, in essence, like Bitcoin did for the freedom of managing your financial assets. It's how the future of knowledge should also look like. We should also have that level of freedom when it comes to knowledge, and we should have that level playing field when it comes to knowledge. And Neuro is a promise of that future. The same way of how Track is the promise of having that knowledge infrastructure, of enabling that knowledge to be published, to be discoverable, to be verifiable, to be discoverable. And having that, of course, with the way track tokenomics works, having that network safety, so that we know that the DKG will have that, will deliver that full value, and it will allow Neuro to play into it. And of course, both together, again, the third point of convergence are heavily, especially within the Genesis, and even more so in convergent phase, leaning towards the AI technology, bringing it kind of on both levels, if you will. So really leveraging different methods, different techniques to ensure that all these processes are basically running to the best of their abilities, and they continuously improve. So mining is only going to get better. Signaling is only going to get better. Publishing is only going to get better. And you see, all of these things will just keep on improving because of the fact that we are leveraging others people's work or other organizations' work and bringing it towards the OriginTrail ecosystem, and vice versa. We're integrating what exists there. So yeah, I think it really is the knowledge economy combo made in dreams that kind of enables all of these super cool things to get unlocked. So I really like
another thing
and track. another thing.
I'm bringing in another bigger thing. So we have built an infrastructure so far that has provenly been supporting millions of knowledge assets. Now this is set to become to witness a much more explosive growth because there is a need for public knowledge assets. And I think we all remember the discussions about having knowledge assets that have a vast amount of their knowledge hidden from the public, and these knowledge assets bring, let's say, less value to the public domain. And because it is also in the interest of other users to see knowledge asset base grow on the decentralized knowledge graph, the knowledge miners' role is really to find the best possible knowledge out there to essentially expand the knowledge base. First off, the Genesis knowledge base on the decentralized knowledge graph, and track much similar to how we see electricity within the Bitcoin ecosystem. Track is being used in order to drive essentially all those miners, because they would need to be still paying for every knowledge asset created in the same way essentially as it has been done so far. Neuro, which essentially replaces the OriginTrail parachain, we believe it describes what was already initially the whole vision of the OriginTrail parachain, now coming in place of the OriginTrail parachain as Tomasz said, a knowledge currency, as a new form of an asset that is capable of signaling essentially the valuable knowledge out there, and giving the miners a way essentially to understand when they receive it that they have mined a useful knowledge. And the more useful the knowledge is in a long period of time over the life cycle of the knowledge asset, the bigger the fees are going to be paid out to those essentially mining the new knowledge assets. So it's an incentivized system that over time is going to be bringing a lot of interesting economic opportunities in this new knowledge economy, and the track essentially is going to become an even stronger, I would say, kind of asset, which is going to be is going to gain prominence as a spam protector now that we have a larger amount of publishers interested in mining these knowledge assets. But because, of course, we should always make sure that the network is going to be full of quality knowledge assets, the track is going to become increasingly become a guardian of the quality of knowledge assets in this network. And this is essentially happening now. So the Polkadot governance also allows us to vote on this and many other things And before going into the knowledge mining, like really being able to mine the knowledge on the decentralized knowledge graph, all of those holding the OriginTrail parachain token are going to be able to mine on this on the future of the neural web. Yeah, so I'm sure there are some nuances on which we can perhaps reply later on in the Q&A section. We have already received some very interesting questions, but yeah, let's move on to the next slide, and then after we're done with the presentation, we can move on to the Q&A.
Yeah, perhaps to just pitch in on the side of the neural track duality is, as you said, the OTP becomes neural and it becomes even more powerful. But the great thing is it's already there, and the technology has been working on for quite some time with actually no problems. The chain never halted as it happens to other chains, but also it's not just not halted, it's taken in all of the load we've been throwing at it. So in a way, neural has basically already a huge foundation that's built, including the governance that you mentioned, which we'll talk about more in a bit. But back to knowledge mining and governance. Essentially, the target we set for the Genesis period is to get to this 1 billion knowledge asset mark. And all of these will be verifiable on DKG, obviously. With this mining target, we're, as a community that governs the currently OriginTrail parachain and what is to become neural web, is actually going to participate in deciding how are we going to get there. And in that sense, it's a very, very aspiring target. Given the capabilities, the new additional capabilities that the DKG and Neural will have together, we are very confident we're getting to really, really great results with this. A bit more on knowledge mining is that this capability of getting essentially not just the ability to verify that certain knowledge comes from a certain source, but additionally to verify that it meaningfully connects with existing knowledge, and then fundamentally also being provable that this knowledge has been produced from some of these existing knowledge assets. There's so much that you can do once you combine knowledge graphs with the knowledge mining concept. And with this concept, we expect to see, like Tomasz mentioned, a lot more information to become free. This is, if you're at all familiar with cypherpunks, this is one of their old saying that information wants to be free. And with the DKG and the neural web, this is where we want to get there. So we want to show the world that it's very valuable to get your knowledge out and enabling your knowledge to be used by others, but yet again retaining ownership and capabilities over this knowledge to grow, rather than just feeding a centralized, let's say, AI model, not knowing how your data is being used, not being able to see how that then connects with the rest. We have here really not just an opportunity, we already have the capability to build such an enormous decentralized AI-based system that rewards people for sharing valuable knowledge through the form of knowledge assets. So that's where knowledge mining is going to be incredibly useful. And having that said, it's actually the initial Genesis knowledge mining, the first, may I call it even exercise, the first knowledge mining opportunity is going to be here very, very soon. So if you're interested in participating in something like this, if you're excited about knowledge mining as much as we are, then pay attention to the rest of the updates and the roadmap update that's going to follow up. Having that said, I think it's time to go to the second period. What comes after Genesis is really this convergence phase. This is in some ways, I'm a little even scared to think what all great things you can bring. Scared in a good way, because what we're seeing is just exponential growth on all fronts, and the things that we're doing today with the DKG. If somebody told me like 5 years ago we'll be able to do this today, I would probably not believe them, even though I'm very, very optimistic about the future of DKG always. And through the convergence going towards singularity, we think that this will be much more of the case. And as we mentioned, convergence really kicks in with once we enable it to happen through knowledge mining, basically creating this large corpus of knowledge, the 1 billion knowledge asset mark, which we estimate to be enough knowledge that we can then build exponentially additional knowledge on top. These estimates come from looking at the biggest knowledge graphs in the world that exist. They're both centralized. We can learn a lot from them. So once we reach this number of 1 billion, and once we enable further growth with OriginTrail version 8, the DKG version 8, we get into this stage of autonomous DKG, as we mentioned. So to recap, we will see AI native knowledge assets come into play. And with this big corpus of knowledge that was already created, we will see autonomous knowledge mining kicking in. So think of having the machine do the work for you in a verifiable way, a machine you own and the system that you own and partake in. And then taking that a step further, doing autonomous knowledge inferencing, basically taking existing knowledge and producing new knowledge from it, because either of a logical conclusion or a machine learning prediction that satisfies certain criteria that you set, all very, very interesting things come into play. And with this, it's very hard to explain in very practical terms at the moment, but you can basically think of it as almost kind of a future predictive system. Like you can get a bunch of information, billions of knowledge assets in one place, and then infer what leads from that. Basically using these different ways to do knowledge inferencing. OriginTrail version 8 then becomes fully autonomous and is able to grow and essentially do all of this connectivity on its own. You wanted to jump in?
So no, just wanted to say in the traditional, let's say, sense of decentralized system, people wanted to gain exposure with, let's say, digital assets, and digital assets became even more valuable because of the network effects. I remember the articles published about Bitcoin and how the value of the Bitcoin, at least the way some people predicted, grew according to the network effects with the users. So here, what you create for yourself is an opportunity based on the network effect of the knowledge assets that you publish. Because the larger the amount of valuable knowledge assets, the bigger the economic opportunities you also receive. Or in a sense, the economic opportunities are a function of the number of quality knowledge assets that you generate. And the tooling developed within the V8 essentially is going to catalyze the whole system to provide much greater economic incentives for all those generating knowledge assets. And as we said, I mean, the Metcalfe phase already is going to start providing ways to generate Genesis knowledge assets. So the earlier you get into the knowledge economy within the decentralized knowledge graph, the bigger the chances you will have that your knowledge assets are both unique and valuable, so that other knowledge assets miners will build on top autonomously or non-autonomously in the beginning. But in the future, what we predict is that each economic agent in the decentralized knowledge graph system, in the OriginTrail, is going to have an ability to autonomously grow his his knowledge base.
Yeah, and it's like, I think that the one element maybe that's also very key to keep in mind with knowledge mining is that convergence aspect can also happen from you just leveraging the technologies that maybe are even possible today. So like Giga said, if you're interested or you feel that you want to have that God mode on a particular domain of Genesis knowledge assets, depending on how familiar you are with, let's say, something like AI agents, there's ways that you can leverage these technologies even today that it won't be autonomous, but it would be automated. If that kind of we draw a thin line there, it's something that can then work for you basically, so that you can mine knowledge without really by leveraging these technologies instead of kind of doing any manual, let's say, work in that sense. So yeah, there's going to be plenty of ways of optimizing knowledge mining and having the opportunity basically to be to take part in building this out. So yeah, it's maybe just another element to keep in mind.
Alrighty then, shall we jump straight to the questions? Oh, I'm sorry. There was this juicy 100 billion plus knowledge assets slide. Branimir, please go ahead.
Yeah, so you guessed it. With the autonomous knowledge mining, inferencing, signaling features that we talked about, the target for the convergence phase is to go beyond 100 billion knowledge assets. So having this in mind and having all of these 100 billion knowledge assets likely refer to some knowledge assets, you can imagine how important the first billion will be. And that's why not only do we ask for feedback on this idea that would both go through the parachain governance when it comes to Neural, but also it's a kind of a big ask for everybody to join in, start participating and publishing high quality knowledge assets, because once you start and once you're one of the first ones to in this first billion, then the rest of the 99 will likely be pointing at what you create if it's highly valuable. That is one of the key. If you ever tried using knowledge graphs, you'll see knowledge graphs do exactly the same. They point to existing entities, they don't duplicate them. So it's also one of the ways to solve that classic problem that knowledge graphs have, which is duplication. But out of the, I don't want to go into deep of the tech stuff. We will do that some other time. I think it's worth sort of finalizing here and mentioning that essentially with autonomous knowledge mining, with OriginTrail V8 and all of the associated updates, the DKG will not just become autonomous, it will become the biggest knowledge graph or really biggest knowledge base in the world. And at that stage, not only biggest, but also common and open and owned by everybody, and pieces of that knowledge owned by you. So I'm super happy that we're here today to share this and to invite you guys to participate. With that said, I think it is the right time to go into the questions after we say thank you to everybody. So who has the questions open?
Let's jump into the question. I have the questions open. So we received plenty of interesting questions, and we're going to try to go through all of them. And then we're also going to check around if anyone is kind enough to just perhaps post all the interesting questions into the Telegram, into the official Telegram of OriginTrail. We'll also try to check those, and perhaps on YouTube. I think we also have a few interesting questions over there. But let's go to let's respect the pecking order and go to the questions that were submitted prior to the event. All right, so I believe we have BRX that asked, "Hi man, very cool to have you around, but BRX, you've been on fire lately. It's been a pleasure to watching your activity on Twitter and elsewhere. So BRX would ask, now that the tech seems to be production ready, when can we expect pilots like Perutnina Chicken, Halal Food, and blockchain to start hitting the mainnet? So the tech is production ready, and more solutions are production ready. So some of the mentioned solutions are already in production on the V6, as well as many other solutions. So I think that, I guess, covers the question, unless any of you guys would like to also add anything to this one.
Yeah,
Thumbs up.
I think you covered it. Yeah, thumbs up.
All right. Again, BRX, is the team planning another yearly report like the previous years? Yes, somewhere at the year, and we're gonna have plenty to report. I think November is gonna be hot due to all the stuff that we're adding, and also there are a few like very interesting partnerships coming in place. So make sure to stick around, because we are not yet writing the report, because there's plenty of new things which we expect to happen by the end of this year. But yes, we're gonna publish another yearly report for this year. Again, BRX, did the team encounter any blockchain scalability issues with the OT parachain due to Polkadot parachains? How Polkadot parachains are working now? If we hit a bottleneck on the blockchain layer, what are the backup solutions? So I think this goes back to the multi-chain and the necessity of the multi-chain. And perhaps one thing that we did not point out, with the mining on the neural web can also be done, essentially mining knowledge can be done on other blockchain networks. But of course, the usage is going to come back to the parachain that is essentially being a vessel for the neural web. But that's just my very quick step into the multi-chain, and perhaps someone can cover the scalability issues with blockchains in general, and perhaps more specifically about the Polkadot. Branimir or Yuri, will you cover it?
Yeah, I think Branimir is probably he'll be back. He can cover that. I think
he's handling the scalability issue just now. Yeah, but the DKG has been growing insanely. We have by over 90% surpassed the goals for growing the knowledge asset base. So
and the blockchain layer, it wasn't underutilized by no means. So it's definitely a strain on the infrastructure side there to keep up with the growth. And there's different levels of kind of scalability challenges that appear. Definitely there's the multi-chain approach is one that significantly increases the scalability potential of the decentralized knowledge graph, but as well there's other kind of developments that will allow us to keep growing. But that doesn't take away from the fact that we were growing fast, and what was it, breaking blockchains already.
Yeah, I heard you guys. I was away for a moment. Just a kind of a note from the parachain side of things. There's a bunch of updates also coming from Polkadot itself. If you're following the Polkadot ecosystem, it's been a talk for a while now about something called asynchronous backing, which should increase the throughput quite a bit. So there's certain capabilities also coming there directly from Substrate and Polkadot, but also improvements in terms of scalability from the DKG level, the way, or rather the efficiency of it using the blockchain is also going to go up, as we did with every version so far. So overall, all of these strategies, multi-chain and scaling of each of the components, are being worked on all the time, pretty much. So we're not worried, and that's why we designed the system in that way. So even if we hit some bottleneck in some way, there's always an ability to utilize another chain, specifically chains being the most bottlenecky of all, right? We all know that the blockchains have a hard time scaling. Did we answer the question, guys? Do you think we can move on?
Yeah, I think we had. I think just wanted to add one thing. The OriginTrail decentralized knowledge graph is set to grow in a way that we will always be breaking things. We will always be breaking one blockchain after another because none of the blockchains so far has been built for the scale that the DKG will need in the future. I mean, just recently we got a request to bring in some information. I think it's the DNA information onto the DKG, amounting to what? How many zettabytes of data? So insane storage for the DNA. And of course, neither Satoshi Nakamoto nor I would imagine Vitalik or any other great founder in the blockchain ecosystem never planned for such projects to occur on the decentralized technology. And yet here we are. We're building the tech that is going to break one blockchain after another. And this is actually one of the main reasons for multi-chain DKG. All right. So again, BRX. Will the team reach out to Chainlink as they're waking up to the importance of AI and blockchain? I think it's not just Chainlink. I think it's the whole world is waking up to the importance of the real world solutions that OriginTrail has been building for the past 6 years. I think there is a small degree of let's say authenticity with any of them, but what OriginTrail also allows for is like we said before, the multi-chain structure. And we have actually published a blueprint or an RFC that allows any blockchain based project to come forward, generate the pull request, and then start integrating with the DKG. That is possible. There is a certain set of criteria which we cannot go past. It needs to be an EVM chain. There is a certain minimum amount of the asset that needs to be brought to that chain for the nodes to be set up for the security purposes. So anything is possible. And in addition to that, any blockchain can then tap into the cool product suite that is already being built on top of the DKG, and by extension, the AI tools that are already integrated with the DKG, like Microsoft Copilot, are offering like very insane opportunities to those that come into OriginTrail ecosystem and integrate the DKG to their blockchains. And this also includes Chainlink. I believe they are trying to build something similar as Polkadot or even Polygon. So I think they would have no problem achieving, let's say, compatibility with the DKG. BRX, can the team provide a new estimate on how many assets are we expecting soon? Branimir mentioned 100 billion assets relatively soon. Yeah, I think we've covered that one in the presentation. BRX, can the team provide this is hot to go, sorry. Hot to go in our adoption. Is our adoption being slowed down by the blockchain layer? When will the blockchain layer be able to handle the huge growth we envision? I think we covered this question. There are certain limits, but the multi-chain structure is capable, will be capable enough to handle the staggering growth that we target. And as we go, of course, we will be able to anticipate any potential problems that might occur on any of the chains, and then react quickly enough so that we can support the growth further. Boys, is that good enough? Would you add anything else to that question?
I think
all right,
we went over it a couple of times. Yeah, just let's go.
What are the other teams in the Polkadot ecosystem do you find most interesting? Oh, that's a difficult question. I mean, me personally, I like several teams, but I would not be pointing them out right now. Are you working, unless you guys wanted to add anything?
There's
Sorry
this
for
web thing
kind of
I like a lot.
Oh, yeah, my favorite. All right, are you working on real world solutions with other teams in Polkadot? I mean, we are working with Polkadot. We're working with Parity. Parity is also a team, so I would say a conditional yes. What teams would you like to have future collaboration with? Is that Tinder for Polkadot teams, not a questionnaire for the team? Sounds almost like matchmaking.
Perhaps just to add, we're constantly in touch with Polkadot teams, both on several levels, and we speak with them, but it'd be too early to mention, some of the things. Also, we collaborate also on the technology. The ecosystem is very friendly, and we help each other essentially once we potentially reach some issue, or are not sure how to go in some direction. So we're in touch with a lot of different people, and it will be a little bit inappropriate, in my opinion, to single out somebody. But yeah, overall, I think all of these questions relevant, and we can just say that we're really happy to be part of such a group of great builders.
Okay, any blockchain native solutions we can expect utilizing the DKG? So we're also going to publish an updated roadmap. I believe the team is already publishing it, and we also aim to release the RFC that is going to allow Polkadot teams to see how to integrate with the DKG. What other ecosystems are you looking into? I think we cannot comment on it right now, but there are several ecosystems approaching us for the DKG integrations. Who in the blockchain space has shown its? I think the same questions like popping with different articulation. I think this whoever published those questions, he must be someone who's just trying to really wants to get an answer or using different questions. Who should the community target for the future collaboration? Very interesting question.
Elon Musk.
I think we've already. Oh yeah. So I'd just like to say that what we try to look into is not just Web3 projects, which some of them we already have pretty good ties to, and we work together on either advancing the multi-chain layer on OriginTrail or build the consumer-facing or user-facing applications together with. But we always try to go just beyond the Web3, and we're trying to find teams or like companies or ecosystems or bigger partnerships with whom we can really advance something for the real world. And you've seen before, within the Chat DKG grant, we have people joining us from Google, we have people joining us from Microsoft, and also because thanks to some of those folks, we are able to see some of the integrations with Google and Microsoft also coming to fruition. Chris, hi there. I'd like to ask about the 1 billion knowledge asset projection on the roadmap. I believe we covered that. After a successful 1 million has reached in the previous phase for October 2023, is the 1 billion target based on future onboarding set to be secured, or is the 1 billion an estimate? Let me see, that's a long question. Billion an estimate. I cannot see the entire question. Oh, the cells. Sorry. Anyone else seeing the entire question?
Yeah.
That's a very long one. Yeah.
You got it?
I think we covered a lot on
so
the
it's
billion scaling and the
so essentially about the growth of I think this one has been covered, Chris. But thank you for this question. Brendan, regarding the RFC 17 and onboarding additional EVM chains, Giga had mentioned that there will be a multi-chain fall. I think we have covered this one as well. Or would anyone want to add? Right now we have an integration ongoing with Gnosis, and we have also a few of them expressing their interest to do a pull request, and then we'll just follow, let's say, a natural order through which we can see the integrations coming through. Next question: when is the number of assets going to increase? It's projecting to 1 billion RVA. So I think we've covered that one. How can DKG get mass adoption in Southeast Asia? I think that's a very specific market question, but I feel through partnerships with like very prolific or very successful entrepreneurs that really understand the region, and we are actually we have some very good friends, or at least like we have managed to establish recent partnerships and also friendship in Asian part of the world, and there are some very good solutions and very visionary solutions being built for for example for the virtual reality space, whereby the importance of verifiability of information becomes even more important in the virtual reality than here in the physical world, where we already have some problems identifying or verifying what is true and what isn't. So there's a project, like a very cool project, that I would advise you to check into. It's called Canvasland. I think they're also quite vocal on Twitter and elsewhere. And just go ahead and check what they've been building. Yeah, I think working with companies and teams like Canvasland, I think it is one of the best ways also to advance mass adoption in Southeast Asia. Okay, hot to go. Which project implementation is closest to be fully developed for the DKG for their entire volume? Will we first have all TUI poultry product? Okay, so again, the chickens are already on V6, so you can chat with chickens on V6, no problem. Or first have all trained parts, all EU trained parts tracked, or first have all US donated medicines tracked, or first have all halal online marketplace products tracked. All right, so I think chickens are going to be the winner. But that's my speculation.
Winner, chicken dinner.
All the projects mentioned, all the projects mentioned are being deployed on the network, and yeah, all of them very interesting. Okay, no, we covered this one. Are you familiar with the fellowship on Polkadot? It's basically on-chain collective of developers that work on the Polkadot core technology. This is the first fellowship on Polkadot, but more will follow. Have you thought maybe of launching a fellowship focused on Polkadot enterprise adoption? This way, enterprises could be approached as a group, offering way more than one single entity ever could. All right, a long question. Who can take this one? Raniva, I think you were involved in the fellowship.
Yeah, so we had a
fellowship of the dot.
Yeah, I was present last time in Copenhagen, where the discussions about fellowships was going on. So we're not only aware, we're participating in these discussions, and we like the idea of the fellowship. Of course, it makes the ecosystem also more decentralized and more collaborative. And it's really great when you meet all of these builders together. So we had basically the day before the Polkadot Decoded conference was the day where the fellowship met, and there was a Parachain summit happening. And we think it's a pretty good initiative. We're looking to explore further how to participate and collaborate with others through it, for sure. That's pretty much what I can say. It's a bunch of very clever people.
Okay, thank you. What is the main challenge Otis is facing right now, and how would it overcome it? In my personal opinion, it is the fact that we have the vastest collection of the real world adoption stuff, and it is becoming increasingly difficult to encapsulate all of the stuff going on in a show like this one, and then do justice to all of those cases, do justice to all of those production cases, and let them shine in fullest. So that's difficult. It is also difficult that I think the bull market is coming, and there's also a lot of noise coming. And in bull markets, for community members or anyone getting involved with with decentralized technologies, it's much more difficult to really weed out everything that is not useful. And what we can do, or at least should strive to do better, is get the word out about OriginTrail. And I think this is where community can play a crucial role in helping us both shape and amplify the message about OriginTrail. So here you go. I took a first stab at it. Brana, Tomasz, Yuri, anyone, any of you?
It was a good step. No, I kind of agree. I think that there's I don't know if it's a challenge. I think it's more of an opportunity that we're seeing here that we can open up by bootstrapping knowledge. So kind of creating this hotspots where knowledge starts to kind of connect and grow around it, and then that could inspire or open up some interesting opportunities with them, by tapping into those hotspots with different AI models. So I think that's obviously tying to the whole discussion we've had over the course of the last almost 2 hours. But I'm quite excited to see that play out.
Cool. I think we have covered the first set of questions. Now I'm going to go to the official Telegram channel to see all the interesting questions we got there. Kitty Tamatoa, what's the timeline for the different stages? Are there plans to make Neuro multi-chain as well? Branimir, I guess you're taking this one.
I can take it. So, in short, the timeline for the Genesis phase is basically up until 2025, towards the end, and the convergence phase is to continue afterwards. But that doesn't mean that if we make progress earlier, that some things won't kick in, as it was happening previously also with the Turing phase, which basically inherited a lot of the things from the future phases of the OriginTrail roadmap. Some things will kick in actually very soon. So as we mentioned, the Neuro idea is to be confirmed via the referendum, which will happen very soon, within a month. And then the initial knowledge mining is something that we're also looking to kickstart basically as soon as that idea is confirmed. With that said, there will also be more details, not just in the roadmap in terms of the timelines, but also with some estimations, of course. We cannot pinpoint exactly what day or week some things will happen, because these are really complex things we're building here and doing, especially in a larger group now. But long story short is the ambition is to do quite a lot of stuff by the end of the year in terms of starting the Genesis knowledge mining, as well as explaining it in an RFC. So for those of you who are getting, this whole idea is a little sort of hard to grasp at the moment, and you'd like to get more info, there will be a dedicated RFC. And we tend to be very detailed with RFC, so it will explain the idea, not just explain it, but it will also be a call for feedback and proposing your ideas as well, because this is again, it's not just kind of us being the most clever people in the room. We expect the community also to contribute and provide very valuable feedback on these approaches.
Awesome. Thank you, Branimir. Oh, I love the engagement. Let's move on. Mr. Mountain, could you go deeper into the value flow of Neuro?
I think it's as a knowledge currency, you can picture it as obviously because it's an evolution of OTP, it's the gas token for the NeuroWeb blockchain, but it also serves very much as an asset that allows you to guide the future of knowledge mining, right? So where really you feel that you can use it to determine which fields should be those that are getting the knowledge mined on next. So that might be either because of whether your interest is X, Y, Z, or your motivations lie in different ways. But that's basically your ticket to the knowledge freedom, and to be able to take part in that future. And by and large, of course, also it's used as a gas fee. It's used as a collator's incentive on the parachain. So nothing is taken away from the kind of core functionalities of the blockchain on the parachain that it is today. But in very much kind of like zooming out, it's the knowledge currency. It's your store of value for knowledge in that sense, because you'll be able to guide that by using the Neuro. Hopefully that answers it. But of course, similar to how Banana said that knowledge mining is going to have its own RFC, there's also going to be more information available as we move closer to the referendum vote on this basically future getting enacted.
All right. Do you believe the current economics of the nodes are suitable for further adoption? Tomasz, while you were at it.
Yeah, I think so. There's the functioning of the decentralized knowledge graph and using track as a mechanism to compensate the DKG nodes in that network. I think it's a very well functioning kind of mechanism that can ensure the growth of the DKG in the coming period as well. Now that said, there's always nuances to it, and of course there's a continuous improvements, especially with the convergence happening. There's going to be more availability of other techniques and methods for us to kind of include in some of these activities. But the core principles of having track as a mechanism to ensure the safety of the network, with using it as a collateral and using track as a way to compensate the publishings of knowledge on the DKG, yes, I'd say it's very like those core principles are rock solid.
Walter, when can we expect documentation on how to get started with knowledge mining?
So the documentation will start with the RFC, and then it will follow with additional details based on not just confirming the whole idea, but also basically illustrating the first approach through the RFC. So expect the RFC and then a little bit more.
And the Genesis mining is expected to take off following the referendum, and the referendum is expected to take place in December. Okay.
Yeah. So the ambition is to do the referendum ASAP. We really want this idea to be. It should not wait, and because
November. So we might be looking into November.
In November, we are. We're all basically voting on the referendum already, and then in December we can do the first Genesis knowledge mining together.
Cool, that's really good. When will issue 2769 on GitHub be addressed? The update didn't help all nodes and broke some more.
Okay, I'm not specifically.
Yeah, that's easiest
sure
handled on GitHub. So
well,
or in Discord.
Rest assured, the team's been very busy the last couple of weeks addressing several bugs on the network, especially due to this load. But yeah, we'll take a look and check out what this specific issue is about.
Yeah, the next one, YouTube mining. How many of first billion assets are expected to come from explicitly knowledge mining, and how many estimated from partners using the network for their own publishes, regardless of the new knowledge mining incentives? Well, that's very hard to predict, because all new publishings following the, especially publishings of public knowledge, so quality knowledge assets, are going to be exposed to mining incentives. And as soon as mining incentives already in the genesis stage are enabled, is going to become an offer one cannot refuse for anyone publishing knowledge assets to publish even more because of those incentives. So it's a virtual cycle. It's supposed to, the whole idea is to gear a system in a way that it pushes for the exponential growth of knowledge asset, because not only because there's an appetite to win and to mine new knowledge assets after mining is made available, but also because the so far published knowledge assets are already providing future opportunities, will be providing future opportunities to knowledge for asset publishers, for knowledge publishers to take part in the mining rewards. So I mean, at some point after knowledge mining is enabled, I believe all of the knowledge publishers, knowledge creators are going to be part of the mining system. So that's my first stab at it. You guys have anything to add here?
Yeah, maybe just because I suppose people have a bunch of questions popping in their mind, like what are the things that knowledge mining is designed to do is to incentivize knowledge sharing. So that means you really have to share knowledge. Not to say that there's use cases where privately held knowledge is not useful on the DKG. Absolutely, we've seen a lot of that happening actually. But yet again, like I said, it's the vision for knowledge mining is to incentivize publicly created public knowledge in public knowledge assets. So having that said, you can consider it kind of like a gradient type of a scale where basically private knowledge gets no incentive, and the more quality and the bigger and the more highly connected new knowledge that is publicly created on DKG, the more mining is beneficial for them. Let's put it like that. So I guess that gives a little bit more context.
Cool. Slacker, with inferential knowledge mining result in hallucinations?
That's a really good question. And there's a lot of elements to this answer, but I'll just focus on one, which is the uniqueness of the DKG, which is also a property of knowledge graphs. Even the knowledge graphs that really the graph structure itself that exists today has this property of through symbolic representation also applying certain logical basically operations. So maybe I can illustrate with a simple example. For example, I guess the usual one that people take is inheritance. Like, for example, I'm a son of my father, and my father is a son of his grandfather. Imagine if those were two pieces of information in two knowledge assets for some reason. And imagine that the knowledge graph actually knows what these relationships mean. That is actually usually encoded in something called an ontology, but we won't go there. Imagine if it just knows that the people who are related are actually relatives. So okay, I have my dad who is my relative, and my dad has his dad or his granddad who is also his relative. If we apply logic to this, that means that my grandfather's relative too, right? This information is not explicitly written in a graph because we said, okay, there's these two pieces of information in two different knowledge assets, for example. But once you put them all in one place together on the DKG, then you can infer this third piece of information, given that you know the logic. And this, if you apply this type of inferencing, which is called knowledge graph inferencing, reasoning, is basically there's no way for the system to go off rails because it applies literally logic. So it's kind of like math applied on data, So just as 1 + 1 doesn't equal 3, but if you properly compute, it will come to 2. This is the same approach here with this logical reasoning. So this is just one element of how you can use inferencing. It's not the only way, and this is obviously the more overly simplified explanation. But think of it on a larger scale with additional capabilities. Now, if somebody is going to build something with the DKG and something else that ultimately might end up hallucinating depends on how they build it. The DKG is really an enabler that gives you all of these tools and all of this knowledge to build with. But ultimately, if somebody uses it the wrong way, there's also a possibility to do this.
Thank you, Branimir. Actually, Tomasz will need to excuse himself because he needs to appear in another Twitter Spaces. And we'll continue with the questions because I feel answering them, at least most of them, is quite important because of the newness of the topic.
Alrighty.
All right, so we have a question.
If you guys still going on, take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Tomasz. So there is a question linked to a previous one. Let me find it. The question about Neuro. So the question is, if it's a currency, wouldn't it be, who would be paying it for, and who will be paying? Yeah, I think Tomasz just left. I think he would be the one going into this question. So essentially, there is a Kickstart pool out of 1 billion euro tokens, or right now we call them OTP tokens, that sit in the treasury. And I believe there's a significant pool that is intended for kickstarting the pooling rewards. So just make sure you have enough track also available so that you can pave the way for the knowledge that you're going to be publishing. And after starting the publishing of the knowledge assets and also incentivizing the mining of the Genesis knowledge, there is also a fee structure that is going to be constantly replenishing the future pool for Neuro tokens to be incentivizing the future publishings of the knowledge assets. But of course, to kickstart the creation of the Genesis knowledge assets, there is a pool with plenty of Neuro tokens to be used for the mining. How do OT make signature brand product explore to the crypto market? How do we let people know and have their attention? So I think the new phase is also coming in terms of building very easy to use interfaces for also people within the Web3 industry to understand what OriginTrail is all about. So in the past, OriginTrail has been also about tracing the meat that we consume or tracing sausages. But to the same extent as people were able to trace products in the past, people in the future or people from now on are going to be able to trace their, let's say, financial advice or the media information that they're consuming in the same fashion as in the past it was just like the enterprises or the consumers buying products in stores that were able to check the provenance of information. So now with the advent of AI for general purpose, it's going to be platforms like Twitter, also platforms like Telegram or any other platform that anyone is using, not just the Web3 bunch of people, that is going to drive exposure for OriginTrail solutions. Sorry if I missed any question, but there are so many. All right, so we have Dan, formerly just Dan. Hi, Dan. Sorry if I missed the answer to this question. I missed some of the questions in the presentation. Previously, it was said that only publishing to the DKG would have a cost to it. Now that AI prompts are being integrated, will there be a cost for accessing the Chat DKG API, especially if it could power many apps in the future? If so, will the cost require the use of Track?
So perhaps a quick answer without diving too deep into the complexities of the technology is that going back to the actual utility. So Track token is used for publishing knowledge assets and for the security of the network. And when you're querying information from the DKG, you essentially are querying it from some node, just as you are from a blockchain. So maybe you're not aware of it, but for example, your MetaMask or whatever actually connects to some blockchain node, which is usually called an RPC node. similar ways the DKG operates as any distributed decentralized technology. So doing a query does actually cause this node to have to do some work. And the question is, if you're, let's say, doing an AI query, then you're also maybe using some AI model together with the node that perhaps you have to pay for, like you have to pay for with ChatGPT. The answer is it depends on what you're using. So ChatGPT is itself with an API of its own is not, let's say, envisioned as kind of a centralized infrastructural API. Rather, ChatGPT is a framework that you can use with the DKG, and you can take all of these enablers and build with them. So having that said, like a centralized ChatGPT-like API for ChatDKG where you pay with track is not something that currently in the plans, but it's not to say that somebody cannot build it. It can be built. One of the projects that comes to mind that's also part of the ChatDKG program is the guys from Dev3. They're building basically a platform where they make it easier for builders to use the DKG, especially the ones who are not so versed with blockchain. So by hosting these services, they abstract away the complexities of using wallets and tokens and whatnot. I could imagine such a solution very easily be extended to support such a feature as well. But yet again, this is kind of on the applicational/service level, and many people can build such things, and I think they will build such things in the future. But this is then depending on each specific case, right?
All right, many more questions appearing, but we're gonna take another one, and I'm gonna just pick one randomly because I think we're already over the time that we set before. All right. Follow-up question, YouTube Gaming. Follow up on this question. So the first question was, how many of first billion assets are expected to come from explicitly knowledge mining, and how many estimated from partners? So the follow-up questions goes like this. So what I gather is that only public assets are eligible for mining rewards, which makes sense. What kind of role will private assets play in V8? Will not much change for them compared to V6, and is V8 more of an update aimed at public assets? So there are essentially two questions. So what kind of role will private assets play in V8, and is V8 aimed at public assets?
Yeah, maybe I can take a stab at that one. I think private assets will always they will always have a role, right? There is, because you have enterprises doing business, they will never want to publicly disclose their business sensitive data, right? It's in majority of cases it would even be illegal to do so. So the role of that to enable enterprises to have the adoption, to adopt the decentralized knowledge graph and OriginTrail is actually to have, of course, the ability to create private knowledge assets, which can, in turn also be connected. And that's the case a lot of times now. They can be connected to public ones as well. So the graph that they generate for themselves, that the consortia or enterprise generate for themselves, can be composed of public, private, all sorts of mix in between. And what this really means is that even though enterprises create mostly private knowledge assets, that doesn't mean that they can't benefit from the publicly generated ones, because that's what's happening a lot of times already today, where we have certain knowledge assets, like battery passport is a great example, right? You have some parameters that need to be visible to the public, so everybody should be able to see them, and you have some parameters that are only allowed to be seen by the supply chain owner, essentially, or supply chain consortia. And that's the way that you can kind of blend the two worlds. It's not two separate things, having like the private assets living their own life over there and then the public assets living their own, and it's like two different things. But no, they're all blended together. And then through some demos, you can even see how, through the videos, some of the videos that we've shown, you can even see how this just naturally connects. When you open up your own private knowledge asset, it will just connect to the public ones normally, and vice versa. It's just a matter of what you're allowed to see as the user, and what, for example, if you're building an AI system that is used for chatting, what the AI system has access to, where will it be able to extract the data. So that's, I hope, covers at least part of the answer. I don't know if anyone wants to add anything else.
Yeah, so just to summarize, it's an ideal symbiosis between privately held knowledge assets and public knowledge assets, because, like, again, going back to Microsoft example, Microsoft Copilot, let's say you're doing a financial analysis on a Tesla stock. You would want to tap into both your internal resources you have in your 365 environment and resources that exist on a verifiable web on the internet, on the DKG. So you would want to do both. And the more connections you can establish between, let's say, the internal data resources you have on your machine with the DKG, the more valuable the public assets are. So it's a symbiosis between public and privately held knowledge. Okay, all right. I think this has been one of the most exciting discussions we have had in this year, and I think we're gonna have to repeat this one. Perhaps next time we can do an AMA with a couple of hosts from OriginTrail ecosystem, just like in the old days, and go a little bit more into details for all of the topics that were unveiled today. As said, I mean, there are plenty of exciting things happening, and in the coming weeks, in the coming month, and actually already within this week, we're going to try to explain timeline-wise what are the things that are going to happen first, and in what order you're going to be able to activate yourself as a miner and become build yourself a god mode in the Genesis Knowledge Foundation. And welcome to the Metcalfe phase of the OriginTrail development. And looking forward to everything cool that we are going to be achieving together.
Yeah, exciting times ahead, and exciting times behind us, but we just keep on going, and I think I'm really looking forward to the last 2 months of the year and then beyond.
Great.
Awesome.
We're going to see, by the way, the new updated roadmap on the website relatively soon. The guys are working on the update. So if you have some more questions or something about the timeline, you'll be able to see a bunch of that over there very soon. But like you said, Giga, we should do another one relatively soon. And we'll have to do a referendum together. So we need to prepare.
That's awesome. Thank you very much. And you all have a great day ahead.
Cheers, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for coming.
Bye.